BramRadio, episode 21. 21. Are we sure?
They're coming.
21st episode. This is an ongoing battle trying to figure out what number we're on. 21st episode of BramRadio, and today's a pretty cool one. Make sure though that you check out the all of the, there's some really awesome ones that we've had of up until now. Go back and check some of those out. Also, we're gonna start putting merch up pretty soon. Everything that we have that we have coming in for merch is all going to be either handmade, bespoke, useful, utility-based things that you can use around the house, that you can use in everyday life. It's not just this useless stuff that you just put on a wall somewhere. But we'll also have some beanies and hoodies and hats and stuff like that, so you can look good as well as use some really amazing handmade, bespoke wares. So you'll want to check that out. We got some pretty rad whiskey glasses coming up. I think we got some really fancy utility knives that were made by a team guy buddy of mine. One of my teammates makes insanely good knives, stupid sharp. Yeah, it's just a utility knife. You can use it as a chef knife if you want, or you could freaking skin your rabbits and your deer with it. So it's a really good. Just don't use it as a screwdriver, right? Tools. You use a tool for what a tool is intended. So, like my dad would always say.
Oh yeah.
I got. I remember when I was a kid. Once I left a crescent wrench out, adjustable wrench out in the yard. Yep. That went really well when my dad was mowing the lawn. So ever since then,
yeah, it's like you pay for that one.
Yep, the tools go back where they belong after you use it. That's how we do. But let's see, and also thanks again to Emrod for letting us use the song at the beginning of this. And I think we need to make that link available, Zach, at some point. Start making the link to that song so guys can grab that off of iTunes. So anyway, so 21st episode, Mr. Patrick Holcomb.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Hey, man. Yeah, dude. Hey, thanks. Welcome for being here. It's
great to be here.
Make a little bit, not too much of a drive.
Not too much of a drive. Beautiful drive, though.
Yeah. That's nice driving out here.
You know, I've never been out here before, and as I was driving through the hills, I was seeing all the trails and wishing that I brought some shoes with me to go run them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're a runner.
I'm a runner. Not as much anymore, but yeah. Been doing a lot of running over the past decade, a lot of marathons, so
really
getting back into it soon.
What's your marathon time?
Fastest was just below 2:59.
Really?
Yeah. Took me a while to get there.
That's moving.
A lot of pain, but yeah, got there eventually.
That's moving. Yeah. Not me. If it's longer than, well, you know what? There is no running distance for me anymore. I don't take one running step. If I do, it's for a reason. I try to keep at least a couple in there yet, running steps, just in case I need them for whatever reason. But it's probably not going to be running away from anything. It's probably going to be running towards something, because that's what, man stuff, man code. So, yeah, no running for me. But that's good for you, man. About 3 hours, that's crazy. Ultras? You ever do any ultras?
No, never done an ultra. Thought about it at one point, but it takes a toll. It takes a toll on the body. Yeah. Start breaking down. Yeah. That was my issue.
Oh, got it. Yeah. You got it. So tell us about you. Tell us about your military service.
Okay.
Tell us about your babies. Tell us about what you're doing now, so that the people we can know who you are, and then let's talk about this awesome book.
Okay, yeah, let's get into the background first. So I was born in California, and up in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, and moved around a lot as a kid. My dad was in the insurance business, worked for AAA. So every time he would get promoted, we would move somewhere new. So for the first 10 years of my life, we were on the move a lot, 4 or 5 moves in that time period. As a kid, loved sports, loved being outside. Did I play baseball? I get that question a lot. I did. I didn't play very well, though. Wasn't the best baseball player. Basketball was more my sport. But I loved the game nonetheless. So moved to Santa Rosa, California when I was going into 4th grade, and stayed there through middle school and high school, and then graduated in 2001 and joined the Marine Corps. And it was off from there.
So you joined the Marine Corps, like, before 9/11?
I did. Yeah, that's interesting. So graduated in June of 2001, went to boot camp a month later in July. So Marine Corps boot camp is 13 weeks. When
Go here in San Diego?
I did, yep.
Okay.
So in San Diego, when it comes time to do the rifle range, they send you up to Pendleton, from the depot up to Pendleton. And that's where we were when September 11th came around. We were on the rifle range, and we, the recruits, we knew something was going on. Something was happening because everybody was just acting a little bit off. So about an hour later, they take everybody off the line, pull them into the bleachers, and give us the talk. And the barest of details about what was going on, because at that point, I don't think they even really knew what was happening, but we got the details. And then after that, very little information. You know, when you're in Marine Corps boot camp, it's not like you can sit around and watch the TV. This is kind of the internet existed, but it's not like you had a smartphone where you just pulled up. The news that we got was on Sunday morning. You know, a stack of newspapers would be brought in, and we were allowed to read through for a few minutes. There was a ton of gossip floating around. People started getting letters from their families, you know, asking what's going on. And, you know, they didn't know what we were up to. They didn't know what we knew. We didn't know what they knew. So, yeah, it was a strange experience, you know, probably different than most people's 9/11 experience where, you know, the moment is just burned into their memory. You know, I don't have that, but I have memories of my own that are just a little bit different, a little bit unique.
So then what was the post boot camp journey like for you then, now that we're, you know, heading over to, you know, do what ultimately happened, you know, war-wise, Afghanistan.
Yeah,
you know,
Afghanistan, and then rolling right into Iraq. Yeah, so I ended up deploying to Iraq, and I was with the aviation combat element. So I left San Diego on USS Boxer in late December or very early January. It was soon before my birthday, which is January 10th, so I wasn't even 20 yet. But yeah, we all load up on the ship, and that ended up being designated ATF West. So before the invasion even officially kicked off, I was on a 53 flying off the Boxer, landing in an airfield there in Jaleba, and there was just an advance party of 4 or 5 of us. And we scouted out the terrain and then ended up supervising the buildup of the camp. And then they brought in a few different squadrons from Mag 16. And we were flying out there within a week, 10 days.
Got it. So, was it stressful for you as a 19, brand new 20-year-old?
Yeah, I think so.
Place where it's like you weren't exactly welcome. It was probably areas of it semi-permissible for the most part, non-permissible environment. And here you are, some young kid with 10 other dudes, and you're just like...
Yeah. I think my oh shit moment was as I'm getting off the 53, you know, and I'm standing there in Iraqi soil, and we get away from the bird. It starts taking off, you know, it's just sand everywhere. And I'm watching the sand whip around me. And, you know, I cover my eyes and I'm glancing up, and, you know, the gunner is just waving at me, and I'm watching this bird fly away, and I'm looking, and there's nothing else around. And I think that was it. I think that was my oh shit moment. Like, what's really going on here?
Yeah. Nice. So how long did you spend in the military?
20 years.
20 years?
20 years, yeah.
Okay. So you aren't out of the military much.
Well, it's been 2.5 years now.
Yeah. I was going to say just shy of 3 years.
Yeah. It feels like it's flown by.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get to this stage in life where it seems like every year
when they get out, that their biggest stress is because when you're in the military, everything is there for you. There's somebody coming up to you going, hey, you're class 4 dental, you know. Remember that?
Yeah.
Class 4 dental. Well, we have an appointment for you set for this date. And I remember in the teams, like, there's everything. They do everything for you.
Oh, yeah.
There's some guy over there fixing your radios. There's some guy over there wrenching on your guns. You got somebody over there looking after your service records. Somebody over there with your medical stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Telling you what.
Shot X, you just show up and expose your arm, and they give you all the jabs you need. Yeah. Yeah. It's different.
So and then you get out, and you're just like, okay, so now I have to play the admin game on my own now. Now I got to try to sort this out. And then,
totally.
You know, dial in that, you know, family, dial into that, you know, just life and what is next for me, and that unknown that often happens when guys are getting out of the military. And there's people all over the place, man. When people start dealing with the unknown, have you ever noticed how wiggly things get?
Totally.
Wiggly people get.
Yeah.
You know, that happened for you. You get out, you're like all of a sudden you're kind of like a cat on hot tin roof, and you're just everything. You're just super like anxiety hitting you. Did that happen for you?
Yeah, you know, I definitely have issues with anxiety, no doubt. For me, though, the transition was different from most people. because I started this. So, most people, when they get out, they're dealing with the question of professionally, what am I going to do next? And they're going through the process of writing a resume, and they're networking and getting on LinkedIn and talking to people and looking for that next job. I would do that eventually, but I didn't do it immediately. So in some ways, I didn't feel the same pressure right away, but I felt a different pressure because writing a book is no joke. So yeah, in some ways it was a blessing. In other ways, not so much, because I did feel that pressure later. And I did have to go through that process of figuring out professionally who I was going to be in the next phase, And that's tough.
I think it's because you're going from the who I am or the what I do. Because a lot of people, they're, so what do you do? I'm in the Marine Corps. Okay.
Yep.
So, but it's a little bit different, right? With someone that's in the Marine Corps, they're gonna kind of, it's like, I'm in the Marine Corps. Who are you? I'm a Marine, right?
It's an easy answer,
right?
Yeah.
And so, but what happens when you get out? Now your identity is different.
Yeah.
And I know the Marine Corps have this thing: once a Marine, always a Marine. I don't necessarily do that. It's like the once a team guy, always a team guy. Yeah, you're a team guy, and I refer to other guys that got out like, oh, that's my team guy buddy or whatever. But could you take me and drop me right back in? No, man, I'm broken. Technology has moved so fast, and there's all these Xbox kids in there now. They're working these whiz bang computers that it's like they're technologically so far beyond. It's like it's not even. So that wouldn't even be a. Yeah, I might as well be a civilian. Never even was in the teams going and doing that stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. Different guys have different thoughts on it, but who you are. It's a lot of guys get out, and what they're missing is their sense of purpose. Their sense of purpose is completely now it's eroded because who they are is something that is now only thing that the last little thread of that has just now been jerked out of their hand, and now they're sitting there trying to figure out like, well, what is it? Like who am I now? I have some friends of mine that had really amazing jobs, and they were really identified with that job, and then it's gone, and then they spend a minute, and I get the phone calls. Hey Bram, what do I do? This was what I thought was my forever job, was my dream job. Just got ripped out of my hands because the company downsizing, everything else. Now what do I do? And I always lead with the purpose talk. Like, so what you're struggling with is your sense of purpose, right? Yeah. So your purpose, you've identified your purpose with that job. Well, your purpose really, in essence, is you're always supposed to be on the lookout for, because even when you need a miracle, if you can be a miracle when you need a miracle, that's when all of a sudden the rubber meets the road, and you have purpose. You're all of a sudden there's a reason for you to be in that moment with that person. And when that starts moving, and that's moving at the right pace, and you're always on that lookout, and you always have a sense of purpose, there's a grounding to that a lot of people miss, because they begin when something like that gets jerked out of their hands, or it's just time to leave. The transition has happened. For me, when I got medically retired, he retired, you see that coming up. And so you're starting to set up for kind of what that looks like. But still, when you make that first step out of the military, it's just kind of like, okay, so why am I here? What is next, right? But as people, I always tell this to guys I know that are getting out, or just a changing of a season of their life. Make sure that you always have a purpose. And if you can't find one, that means you're not looking hard enough, because there's always something that you could be doing, something that you could
or you're not looking in the right direction.
Yeah. If I'm going this way, so I'm looking,
Yeah. People put on blinders sometimes, Well, it was the plan. Well, plans can change. Yeah. Plans should change, under the right conditions.
Right.
Yeah.
Tyson says, it's like,
he
has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Wise man.
The plans are going to change.
Always.
They just are. 20 years in the Marine Corps.
Yep.
Congratulations for that. Thank you for your service. That's amazing. And always doing the aviation.
Yeah. So I went in and enlisted right out of high school. And then when I came back from Iraq in 2003, I started having some more serious conversations with my leadership about looking at commissioning programs. And, I was very fortunate. I had good leaders early on that saw some glimmer of talent there and were willing to invest their time in me So I applied to a program called Boost, which no
Mm-hmm.
longer exists because I'm old. But applied to Boost, got accepted, went to Newport, Rhode Island, did 9 months of academics there. Yes, the idea was you have these Marines that have been out of school for a while, and before we put them into college to earn their degree, we want them to get back in that academic mindset. So math, English, science, 9 months of that, and then it was on to college. And completed my degree down in Auburn, Alabama, and commissioned out of there. And then my MOS was logistics. And I did that for the next 12 years.
Nice. So when you got out, what were you when you got out?
Major.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a good ride.
yeah. Well done. That's good. So after getting out, how long after getting out did you begin pursuing the novel? By the way, let me just say, you're the first dude I've ever met that is a novel. Is that a novelist?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
That's a novelist.
Really? The first one?
First one. Never.
Probably a lot of guys writing memoirs. A few of those.
None of that, but
yeah.
but that's not. I mean that's. I mean it says before you even get to the title, it says a novel,
And it is a novel, a
Yeah.
work of fiction.
and it's like if I wrote it on paper, Mead, college ruled paper
Mhm.
with a pen, and I wouldn't write something that many
It's pretty good.
pages.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. I can't wait to get into what this story is about. But how long after you got out was it before that idea hit your head, or did
So
it
that's
hit your heart?
a little bit of both.
Okay.
That's a story unto itself. So the idea for this book came around in October of 2014. And I actually know the exact date. It was October 29th, 2014. And the conditions were unique. I was going through something in my life. Somebody that I loved very much had an illness, and the outcome was uncertain. So we were stationed out in Okinawa in the time, and me and my family, we flew to San Diego so that we could pursue treatment. And as we are going through this, packing up and leaving, I wrote a power of attorney to a friend of mine, not knowing if I would ever come back. But as I'm going through this personal thing, I'm also watching my team, the San Francisco Giants, make this postseason run. And it's incredible. As much as I'm worrying about how things are going to turn out in the personal side of my life, I'm also experiencing this really cool moment watching my baseball team, storm through the playoffs to the World Series. And they got there. They got to the World Series, and one of the pitchers on the team, Madison Bumgarner, had one of the most amazing playoff runs that any pitcher has ever had. So we get to Game 7, and, it's tied 3 games apiece. The Giants are on the road in Kansas City. He's pitching on short rest, comes off the bench to pitch the last 5 innings of the game, closes them out, wins the World Series. And I'm sitting there watching this, just knowing that I have experienced something special, something that most humans don't really have the opportunity to experience, both ends of the spectrum at one time, this anxiety, this fear, this doubt, but also this joy. And it's like, wow, that's pretty cool that a person can experience that. And that moment stuck with me. And over the years, it just kind of started as a seed. That seed eventually grew into an idea. An idea became more fully fleshed, and there it is on the table next to us, where the seems to be.
Wow. I know a lot of people that I know that have written books, and I've written a lot of stuff, and I've written for a lot of books. I've written a ton of book reviews and a bunch of forewords and intros and stuff like that for a lot of my buddies that have written books. But I've never really taken on the task of this monumental proportion. When you write, one thing I do know, I have written enough stuff or recorded enough stuff sitting in a room like this, that when you start to put yourself out there a little bit, you're kind of stepping out from behind cover.
100%.
And
oh, yeah,
you're putting yourself all out there where like people, you're opening yourself up. People just take shots at you because they they don't agree with it, or maybe they think that it wasn't creative enough, especially the critics, and they're going to, how has that been with this so far? I know that it hasn't really been on the shelves yet, so we probably haven't experienced a whole lot of it, But what's it like for you going down that road, knowing that that's out there and just kind of waiting for the incoming round?
That is a very poignant question, and I can tell that you've been there and you've experienced that. And I worried about that, no doubt. I definitely did. And I still do. And I know that the worst is yet to come. Reviews have come in already because I've had advanced reader copies out for a few weeks now. And those reviews are good, but I know they're not all going to be good. There are people who aren't going to like the book. There are people who are going to take shots at it and, in turn take shots at me. And that sucks. I know it's going to suck. But at the same time, that's the risk you take. And if you want to do something like this, any kind of creative endeavor, you have to be okay with it. Am I going to love it? No. But I have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I can say sitting in this comfortable chair right now that I am, but let's see how I feel when the first one comes.
Right. And it's knowing how to take criticism and what to do with it.
Yeah.
Taking criticism effectively is an art form.
It is.
You have to be good at it. The person who craves it, the Bible even says it, that a wise man is going to, paraphrasing, a wise man looks at criticism differently than a fool would. A fool's going to shun away from it. He's going to press off. He's going to like, yeah, whatever. That's just here, right? But a wise man's going to be like, got it, take it on point. One thing that a wise man once told me, he said, one of the best things that you can say to somebody when somebody comes after you, and when they come at you and they're criticizing something that you said, something that you did, they're shooting at you for whatever reason. He said the best response you can always give somebody is, it sounds like you have a really good reason for saying that. He goes, what they're going to do is, he goes, you've now given them full permission to go fire for effect. Fire for effect, the military term. Right?
Yeah.
Right? If those that are in the military, fire for effect means let it all rip. Right? The round that you've already put the marker rounds out there. They're dialed in.
Yep.
Your dope is on point, and fire for effect. Let's send all the rounds. You're giving them full permission to do that. When you're getting all those rounds in, you're going to see a lot of things about that person. They're going to start shooting at you. You're going to start noticing, like, this guy's angry and he's not mad at me. There's something going on in his life that is causing him to be this critical.
Yeah. He
might have some good points in there, and I'm going to take those on.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, you might find some truth in there, too.
There's going to be some truth in there. They're most of the time probably will. But to take that truth and to be able to pull just that truth out, cool, got it. The rest of this is all soaked in emotion. And emotion is going to carry a lot of stuff that has absolutely zero to do with you, probably nothing to do with the topic, nothing to do with the book, nothing to do with the effort that you put in the book, because that really can't be refuted. And just take that stuff and just kindly just move it aside. But he doesn't have to see you do that. You just look at him and just be like, got it. You know what? Thank you so much for that. You're taking the time out of your day and investing it into me to make me better.
Yeah, it's being coachable. Yeah, and coachability is a skill.
100%. And when you say that to them, it sounds like you have a great idea. Sounds like you have a great reason for saying that. And then after he gets done, you just took all of his rounds, saying, you know what? Thank you for taking the time out of your day to make me better. You invested in me, and I will never forget that. Thank you so much.
That approach.
So whether you took it or not, right? You're validating that guy, and he's going to leave feeling so much better. Because I had a buddy of mine once tell me, he said, whenever somebody is around you, you want to make sure that you are taking the time to return that person to their loved ones in better condition than you got them. Much like borrowing a shovel from your neighbor, return with dirt on it, slivers on the handle and everything. You return it, wash it off, clean it off. Maybe take some sandpaper, right, and get the splinters off the handle, and make sure that it's better than when you got it. And you give him back the shovel. He's always going to want to lend you that shovel.
Yeah, totally.
People are the same way. Even when they come to you all bent out of shape and I'm getting off the topic of the book, but I mean, it's just I always think about that when somebody is putting themselves out there. Had another guy on here that was an author, Dr. Greg, this amazing work on trauma. Put it all in a book called The Warfighter's Soul, and then put it out there. And he just was like, it's waiting for the hits to come.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And he didn't get them.
Nope.
He didn't get them the way he thought he would.
But he did,
you know. And I hope the same for you.
Me too. Yeah,
you know. I don't want you to be getting all beat up just because you put all that effort. How did you know
before you even get to the point of getting reviews from readers, you have to go through the arduous process of editing. And for me, there was some fear going into that. No doubt about it. I'd never worked with a professional editor before, and I was a little uncomfortable about the idea. But once I started going through the process, I realized that coachability was important. And at the end of the day, we were going to arrive at a better product than the one we started with. You know, and I'm not going to sit here and say that every suggestion she had was a good one or actionable, but about 70-30, you know, and she was a very, very skilled editor. And I think we had a good working relationship. And once I was able to be comfortable with the idea and open myself up to that criticism and really kind of turn the lens and start looking at my own work a little more critically, we got to a better place. And I'm so glad that I went through that process.
Huh. So how long did it take you from front to end to get the book, to get the book to, like before the editing process, all that stuff, where you got to where you were just like the end, and then I looked at it and be like,
so I went through multiple drafts. Most people who set out to write a novel never even make it through the first draft, never get to say the end. I think it's about 90% fail in making a first draft.
Wow.
So for me, it took 6 months, and it was a tough 6 months.
6 months?
6 months, and I treated it like a day job.
I was going to say, that's every day, all day for 6 months.
I had to build a routine. I had to build a writing routine, and for me, that was necessary to be able to stick with it every day. And not every day was a good one. Not every day was productive. Some days, the ideas just wouldn't come. In those days, I would busy myself with going back and editing and rewriting certain sections. But it took me 6 months to get the book into the form of a first draft. So I had the prologue, all of the chapters in between, and the epilogue at the end. And I was like, okay, here it is. 6 months. Second draft took about 4 months, maybe a little bit less. And then I wrote a third draft where I was really just strengthening the themes, going back, having a little bit of fun. I wrote in some personal inside jokes for friends. I renamed some characters after some important people in my life. Yeah. I had fun with it, and that took about a month and a half. So somewhere around 11 months is where I had this completed third draft that I felt good about. And I felt like, okay, now is the moment to start shopping this thing around and looking for agents, looking for publishers. But it took 11 months to get there. 11 months of really hard work.
Easter eggs. Mm-hmm. That's what I like to call them. Easter eggs.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of them.
In the film industry, when I worked in the film industry for a long time, there was a lot of directors like to leave Easter eggs in there for their buddies.
Yep.
And so now it's like, I know a lot of those directors. Mm-hmm. And so I'll see their Easter eggs. I'll see their inside jokes or the cameo. They'll put themselves in as an extra. And I can usually find them really fast. And I'll text them like, I found it.
That's about it. Yeah.
It's good.
That's one of the fun things about writing, is you get that opportunity to do small things like that. And I can't wait for those people to pick up the book and have that aha moment. And I'll warn them ahead of time, hey, there's something in there for you. I won't tell them where, but there's something in there waiting for you. Yeah. You'll know when you see it.
Yeah. When Dr. Greg, when he wrote his book, The Warfighter's Soul, every book he's ever written, it's they're not even Easter eggs. It's just blatantly, I was working with a team guy who's had a lot of issues, and I just know he's talking about me. It's 90% of it was me. In this book, he actually put in a chapter, just called it Bram. He just called it Bram.
Nice.
He just put a chapter in there, and
Yeah.
And
no hiding that one.
And no, you just full on outed me, on stuff, and I love it. And I had anything to hide down and live my life that way. You know, it's like I live one of those lives where it's like if I did it and it was wrong, I'm going to use it now. You know, I'm going to talk about it, and it's and if it helps somebody else not make that error or go down that road, you know, and it's fun watching a lot of the other guys that I work with. Zach does that. Zach does that too. You know, Zach's been through some stuff, and he can't wait to talk to people about it. He sees signs and symptoms of people, of some of the things that he did when he was younger. And he's like, hey, you know what? Let's talk about this. Yeah. You know, and he gets in it with them and demonstrates that standard. You know, it's just a very awesome.
It's good coaching.
He's a great coach. He's very good at and he surrounds himself with the people that are like that. But you know, so yeah, lead that transparent life where you just, you know, whatever's back there, cool. If I can draw from that to make you to help you and get you there, get you better, and not have to make that mistake, then I'm all about it. Tell me the basics of the book.
So the phrase that I've used a lot over the past however many months is that it's a multi-generational story of fathers and sons and lives that are intertwined with baseball. And that's kind of my pitch. It's so much more than that. But in this market, in this game of selling books, you really have to be able to boil it down. Beyond being a book about fathers, sons, and baseball, it's a book about life and the things that are common to almost all of us. Love and loss is right at the top of the list there.
Love it.
What we do when we face adversity, how we respond to it, how we act when shit falls apart. You know, I mean, that's stuff people can really relate to. And I thought a lot about those themes when I was sitting down to write the first draft. And I thought that I pretty much knew all of the themes that I wanted to build around and express. And it was interesting. When I got to, I think it was the end of the second draft, and I sat back and I started looking at this thing, there was one theme in there that kind of came out of nowhere and surprised me. And it was the destructive power of words left unsaid. You know, I know personally that I've spent a lot of time over the years beating myself up for things that I've said in the heat of the moment, things I've said in anger, and wishing immediately that I could take them back. I haven't spent much time thinking about the words left unsaid and the effect that they could have had, you know? And I think it's kind of a poignant theme. And again, one that's relatable, you know? So in this book about fathers and sons and how they relate to each other, how they see each other, how sometimes they fail to see each other, you know, it's an interesting theme. And the way that I organize the book, in my opinion, is very cool. I tell the story in two parts, right? So the first half of the book is Frank's story. And we meet Frank when he's a young boy, 5 years old. And the first part of the book carries us up through his mid-30s. And then the second half of the book is told through Danny's eyes. Danny is Frank's son. So after spending the first half of the book getting to know Frank, hopefully getting to like Frank, now you're seeing Frank through somebody else's eyes.
So it's 80s, 90s up till now?
So it spans almost 60 years.
60 years.
Yeah. So beginning in 1957 and ending in 2016. So each chapter in the book tells the story of one day in the lives of these men, Frank and Danny Romano. And by doing that, I'm able to space this out over almost 6 decades. So it really is a multi-generational story. It tells a story of Frank, but also his father and their relationship, and then his relationship with his son, Danny. And it gives me as a writer the opportunity, you know, to tell a multi-generational tale, but also it gives the reader the chance to see how these men grow and change and how the actions of a father can ripple down through time and affect the son. And again, I think that's something that we can all kind of relate to.
Why fathers and sons?
Interesting question. I don't know how I really settled on that. Again, it started with that moment in 2014, and the idea kind of grew from there. I had a picture in my mind of the way that the book would beginning. And then sometime thereafter, I pictured how it would end. And it was always clearly a story about fathers and sons. It took me a long time to build out the middle, to bridge that large gap between the start and the finish. But it was always about fathers and sons. And if I dig a little deeper into my own psychology there, it might even go back to one of my favorite movies, which is Field of Dreams. You know the movie? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So I remember seeing this movie for the first time. It was after it came out in the theater. We rented it from the video store, brought it home on VHS. Yeah. And I remember sitting there watching the movie, and I'm watching it with my own dad. And you get to the ending, and, this whole time you're thinking it's about Shoeless Joe Jackson. Yeah. If you build it, he will come. Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't Shoeless Joe. It was Ray's father. And you get to that last scene when all the players are walking back into the corn, and there's just the catcher left on the field, the catcher who is Ray's father. And they had that moment, hey, Dad, you want to have a catch? And I look over at my own dad, and he's tearing up. And I'd never seen my dad tear up like that before. I'd watched plenty of movies with him, but I'd never seen him have that emotional reaction. And it stuck with me, So when it came to be my time to write my own book, I wanted to write a book about fathers and sons, and I wanted it to have the same emotional appeal the Field of Dreams had for me, but also for my dad.
Good. You move it back just a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, there's not, being a dad myself, there's always, I have a lot of other buddies of mine that are dads, and I had a buddy of mine text me this morning, hey, Bram, I think we need to spend some time together. He has a newborn.
Oh, man.
Yeah. He said, can we talk? I said, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, nothing bad. I just want to be better. And I said, what? That's what I told him. I said, that is phenomenal. I said, let me tell you something. It doesn't get easier. It just gets better.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at that from my own life as being a dad.
Yeah.
Right. And how you're always trying to be better for your kids, but sometimes it doesn't look like you're being better, and you might not even be wrong. It's just uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Some of the hard conversations that you have to have. So I've kind of switched from having hard conversations. I can make any conversation fun. Now, the person that is fun for is me. It's me. I have fun with these conversations.
Yeah.
But if I'm having a fun conversation also, I'm also not overreacting.
Mm-hmm.
And my sons, I have a daughter too, but she has yet to sin. She's good. But my sons, I have these fun conversations with me. Well, it's not comfortable for them. Had one yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not fun for him, but he also sees that I'm not super pissed off and like flying off the handle and and I'm messing with them. And in my mind, before I have the conversation, I can't wait to have this conversation. And they're hard conversations. Mm-hmm. They're hard conversations about real hard life stuff, and I just saw him make a mistake. I just heard something. I just saw him do something. Now I'm going to, how do I move this in my mind so I can make it so that it works? And instead of creating a trauma, I'm creating a memory that is going to have something good on the other end of it, so that years down the road, they'll be like, hey, Dad, remember when we had that conversation? Or I can say, hey, bud, remember when we had that conversation? I sure do. And it becomes our little inside joke. But
it's a teaching moment.
But also at the same time, there's enough weight there that they're able to take that and it's got substance. It's something that they can wear. They can put it on. They can put it in their heart, put it in their pocket, and it's going to be with them for the rest of their life. My dad didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a man of very few words, and it was really hard to get him to talk, and And our relation, I have an amazing relationship with him. He is one of my favorite humans on this earth. Taught me hard work, taught me what it was like to be a man, taught me all this amazing stuff. But as a kid, there was things I wanted to do, and I didn't understand. Hey, sometimes Dad's got to just work hard. Yeah. And when they get home, he would be absolutely spent. But he was never too tired to sit down and talk with me, and it was central Wisconsin in the middle of winter. It's like, we're not going outside playing baseball. Yeah. And when we did, usually windows got broke, so we had to kind of slow down on the windows because we couldn't afford a whole lot of windows. But I think it's so amazing that you chose dads, fathers and sons, because that is right now one of the hottest topics that people aren't talking about is the relationship between dads and sons.
It's important.
So important. Mm-hmm. How old are your kids?
So I got 2 kids, a boy and a girl, 19 and almost 17.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one's which?
Boy, 19, girl, almost 17.
Girl, almost 17.
Yeah. Yeah. So my son graduated high school last year and is getting ready to start college in the fall after a year off. And my daughter's a junior and knows pretty much everything about everything.
Sure.
And she tells me.
And she lets you know.
She lets me know. She lets me know every day.
Right. What is your biggest parenting challenge?
Being present. That's always been the hardest for me. Being there in the moment, because I get busy and I'm always trying to do so much, and I catch myself drifting. And instead of enjoying the moments that I have with my kids, with my family, I'm thinking about other things. I'm preoccupied, and it's a terrible habit. And I think I've gotten a little better over the past few years, but there's still room for growth there.
Yeah. If you could place your finger on one favorite father memory that you have, what would it be?
Oh man, that's tough. That is an outstanding question. If you asked me this a year ago, I would probably have a different answer. If you were to ask me again a year from now, it would probably be a different answer. But I think one of the things that I miss the most is just when your kid, you're talking about your friend having a newborn, when your kids are small and you just get the chance to nap together, and mine are older now. And I know that those days are gone forever.
Yeah. Cause it's weird.
It would just be weird. Yeah. That'd be super weird. You don't nap with dad, right? Yeah, that'd be weird. But yeah, I thought about that the other day and I don't even know what brought it to mind. But yeah, those are the things that you miss.
Yeah.
Just one moment, one memory among a vast collection of amazing memories with my kids. But yeah.
I think for me, it's when you come in the door when they're 2, 4, 5 in there and they are so excited to see you.
Yeah.
And you have these 2 toddlers, one of them is, he's running with scissors, and the other one has a bib on that's like drenched with spit that's got a viscosity on it that gross. I mean, disgusting. And he can't wait to smear it all over your pants. He's running at you, and that one is now sitting over there in the corner. And they would just maul you, just like, and they just couldn't wait to get their hands on you. That's one of my favorite. I think about it all the time.
There's a scene that I wrote into my book where Danny is very young and he runs to dad like that and wraps himself around Frank's leg, and Frank just keeps on walking, like dads do, with that anchor tied to his leg. And yeah, that's something I remember with my kids too. They would just grab and hold, and I would just keep on walking.
Have you thought about turning that into a movie?
I've had some thoughts about it, and right now it's not my focus. Right now, I just want to focus on the book launch and make the rollout as smooth as I can. But yeah, I think down the road we'll be looking for some opportunities.
Yeah. When you do, call me. I have some really good friends that are like really successful writers.
That'd be awesome.
In Hollywood, I can think of four of them off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And there are guys that if I call them up and just said, "Hey, my buddy Patrick's he has a book and thinking about making it into a movie. Can you sit with him and just let him interview you, or just pick his brain, or just let him pick your brain and kind of put him in the right direction, softwares, or like how you want to create this and how you want to set this up and how it's different than writing a book." They would be more than happy.
Oh yeah,
to
that'd
do
be cool.
And so they're really solid guys who have written stuff that if you knew their list of movies that you like, I've totally seen that movie.
Oh yeah,
I've completely seen that movie. And I love that movie. It's those levels of writers, and they would. I've done it already before. I have other friends that are trying to write books, and they wanted not written books. They wanted to write a movie. They had an idea, and usually when
pretty different writing a screenplay.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
When they hear the process of what goes into it, they don't normally. They usually don't go through with it.
I can understand. Yeah.
But
I think if I knew the entire process that went into writing and releasing a book, I would have been daunted just by the scope of it. Thankfully, I ate the elephant one bite at a time, and I just focused on, not necessarily what was right in front of me, but right in front of me and then a little beyond. And I took it one step at a time.
Isn't it amazing how some of the things that we want to do, if we were to see the price tag of the finished product, we would often say, that's pretty expensive. I don't know if I have that much emotional capital, mental capital, physical time to spend on this.
We underestimate ourselves.
I got 2 babies. I also have to provide for my family. I also have the me time I'm going to need. I got to get out and I got to run. I got to go and do my workouts. I got to sleep somewhere in there. I'm going to have to eat somewhere in there. Where am I going to find time to do this? But then when you commit to it, when you commit to the process, knowing that's going to be expensive, you just don't know how. That's hard. That's hard. That's the between the ears hard. Not hard, strong. It's just the between the ears hard.
It's interesting. I did not initially set out to write this book right after I retired. That wasn't the plan. I'd been working on something I called the 7 and 7 for about 7 years at that point. My goal was to run a marathon on every continent and climb the highest peak on every continent. And I'd finished the marathons, Antarctica included, and I'd been working on the mountains, and I was about halfway through. And then, like I told you before, my body started breaking down. So it was shoulder surgery 1 year, and then as I was getting ready to retire, already with this plan for finishing the mountains, including Everest, the hip started to go. And it escalated pretty rapidly. So right after I left active duty, right after I retired, I had hip surgery. And it definitely changed my plans. But even though I had to give up on that dream, or at least put it on hold, it gave me the opportunity to pivot. And if I had still had the opportunity to focus on the mountains, I don't think that I could have fully committed to this book. And without fully committing, I never could have written it.
All right, so the book is done.
The book is done. Finally.
It comes out when?
March 29th.
March 29th. And it'll come out where?
Everywhere you buy books.
Really?
Yep.
It's going like that? Like Barnes & Noble and...
Not necessarily in the store, but definitely BarnesandNoble.com.
Yep. And
on the site, Amazon as well. Amazon's always the easiest way.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. What's next?
Ooh.
What's next?
I'm trying not to look too far ahead right now. There are things that I want to be doing, though. No doubt about it. You mentioned a movie. Yeah, I've definitely toyed with the idea of a movie. I want to get back into running. I want to spend more time outdoors. This book is consumed.
Your leg's good?
The hip is great now.
Good.
Yeah. I think it took probably about a year for me to really feel good about it. But yeah, I want to start logging miles again, running races, getting out in the mountains again. living my life a little more, because this book has taken so much of my focus, so much of my energy. Plans beyond that, I don't know. We'll see.
Another book?
I'm saying no right now. I'm saying no because there's no next great idea just sitting on the shelf waiting to be pulled off. Could it happen again at some point? Maybe. But right now, I'm trying to enjoy the moment. You know, we were talking about earlier, being present is not my strong suit. I'm trying to be present in this moment and appreciate this, you know, so that if it is the only book, at least I can look back and say, I had some fun along the way. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I always tell people, pay attention to pay attention to the little things.
Mm-hmm.
When people are going up to do a tandem or a skydive for the first time, and they ask you, hey, what should we expect? And I always tell them, pay attention to everything, every little thing, the smells. Pay attention to the smallest little things, like what kind of shoes our skydivers wearing? Ask questions about their gear. Ask questions about the airplane. Ask questions about why the door looks like that. What's that smell that I'm always smelling inside the airplane? What is that? What's that smell? You know, well, that's what fuel smells like. That's what skydivers smell like when the pressure isn't quite like it is on the ground. Pay attention in the small bubbles in the intestines that turn into big, really smelly farts.
Yeah.
And so I say, pay attention to everything, because as soon as adrenaline hits you, it's the great mind eraser.
Totally. Yep.
And so they are, when I see him next, I'm like, so how'd it go? Like, you were right. I focus so hard on trying to listen, take it all in. I said, the more you take in, the more you'll retain. If you're just kind of going through it, like you're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Oh, that was awesome. Hey, what was this like? I don't even remember that. But you're being an active participant in holding on to the memory. You're being an active participant in every little piece of it along the way and being present. And so when I was explaining this to this guy, he said to me, he goes, oh, so kind of like parenting. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's great. All right, I'm going to go. Okay, great talking to you. But then I thought about it for a second, and I was like, oh, he just went deep on me, and I didn't even pick it up. And I was like,
that's awesome.
I was like, now I get what he was saying. It didn't really occur to me until I thought about it maybe a day later. And I was like, balls. That one went right by me. That's exactly what it is. So good on you for being, I guess, self-aware enough to say, hey, this isn't what I'm great at, so this is what I need to focus on. And I don't care who you are out there as a dude, you always can be more present. You need to pay. What Patrick said is 100% true. Being present. Focus on being. If you don't think you're good at it, then okay, you can get better. If you think you're good at being present, you probably still have room for improvement. When you are present, you are letting the person that's sitting across from you know that they are the only thing that matters, that they are it, that the things that they say matter to you, the things that concern them concern you. The problems that they're going through, let them know that you're right here and you're here to listen, that you are here for them. That is being present. Be present for your wife. Be present for your babies if you have kids. Be present for your friend that's going through the tough stuff. And be present. If you're an adult, be present for your mom and dad. There is one commandment that comes with a condition, and that is honor your father and your mother. That all may be well with you. That all may be well with you. It's the only one that comes with a condition. Some people, you see their lives just completely crumbling and falling apart, and they're trying to figure out why. And then you ask them, hey, tell me about your relationship with your dad. And the first thing you say is like, oh, that dude could rot in hell as far as I'm concerned. I don't care. Okay, cool. Well, something happens when you honor, even when honor's not deserved. When you're present, you're honoring. When you're doing things with your parents, whether maybe they were absolute just messes of parents. Maybe they just didn't know better. Maybe being present is you're letting them know that you're extending them some grace, that you're letting them know that it's okay, that mistakes can be made, that that's what we do as humans, and you're not perfect, but you're going to do your part right now to make sure that relationship is solidifying more so than it was. That's being present. Being present is an investment. It's time spent. It's time spent with intention. It's time spent on purpose. I think that the main thing that I took out of this entire thing is that I probably need to be better at being present.
I think we all do.
In full disclosure.
It's hard, though.
I just got all preachy, and I'm sitting there going, and I suck at it.
Like you said, self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And always looking for growth.
I'm present? Yeah, you're pretty present. I was present yesterday, wasn't I? Hell yeah, you were. Sam and I had some moments yesterday. Good ones, though. Yeah, they were good. They were good. They were good moments, and we learned stuff yesterday. And man, but I do have a tendency to while I'm talking with somebody, and my wife catches me all the time. I'm at work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and she says, "Hey, I'm right here.
Good honor. Yeah, recognize it and bringing you back.
Yep.
Yeah,
and it's so good. I have to, and she's never wrong. I got nothing. I just got to apologize. Sorry, babe. You are right. I was at work. She's like, yeah, I get it. There's some stresses going on, but I'm right here. Like, can we talk about this over here? This is something I want to talk about. 100%. Let's do it. And so that's, yeah. So, congratulations. You came in here on this podcast and instantly convicted me. I feel convicted now.
Good.
And I know.
Good. My job is done.
That's great. I love it. How can people find you?
I have a website. It is authorpatrickholcomb.com. On Instagram @forevergiant 2014. And the book again is called...
Wait. Say that website again?
@forevergiant 2014.
@forevergiant 2014.
Yep.
Is that the publishing company?
No, that's based off the San Francisco Giants and their World Series.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I never heard of that publishing company before. @forevergiant 2014.com. Author
Patrick Holcomb.
Yeah. Author Patrick Holcomb.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So website, what else?
Those are the two primary.
Okay.
For the military community out there, if anybody is ever looking to talk transition, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me there, Patrick Holcomb. I'm easy to find. But it's kind of a goal of mine at this point to give back a little bit. I've had a lot of help along the way. I've had a lot of friends and mentors who have been invested in me and helped me make my transition, and I'm all about paying that back. So please get in touch.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for the book.
You're welcome. Hope you like it.
Signed copy. I'm going to read this. Anybody who knows me well knows that I'm not a reader. Unless if my friends hand me a book and I say I'm going to read it, I will read it. When I get done reading it, I'm going to call you up. And I am going to burn you down. I am going to tell you everything that's wrong. I'm just kidding. Oh, man.
I look forward to the phone call.
It took an hour and 15 minutes for the first joke to come out. No, but I'm looking forward to reading this.
Awesome.
And my wife is a voracious reader. She's got a stack of books on the nightstand on her side. Mine, my side just has a pistol on it.
I'm glad that you brought that up. It is a book about fathers and sons, but it's a book about relationships too, like we talked about. And, it's funny. With the reviews now coming in, it's being reviewed very well by women. And I wouldn't necessarily have expected it because I did set out to write this book about fathers and sons and their relationships. But women seem to really enjoy it too. So maybe hand that off to her and give her a chance to read it.
Yeah.
Love to hear her feedback.
I will. Absolutely. Again, Patrick, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
I appreciate you. And thank you for the book. Thanks for spending time with us, making the drive down to come and get on this podcast. And I say, after I read the book, I say we do it again.
Sounds
what do
good.
you think?
Yep.
Awesome.
All right.
BramRadio. Stay dangerous.